Welcome, everyone, to the Success Elevated podcast. As always, I am your host, Hayden Lee, and I am joined this week by a very special guest. I've been a fan of his work and his family's work for quite a while, but now I get to put a face to the name, which is really cool. Sam Reed, COO of Reed's Dairy. Sam, thanks for coming on the podcast.
Thanks for having me. Honored to be here.
This is going to be an awesome time. Tanner and I were talking a little before we started recording, kind of off camera, of how big of fans we are of Reed's Dairy.
I appreciate that.
Tanner's our in-house videographer, and he filmed some videos for you guys this summer. And we're big fans of Reed's Dairy and Reed's Dairy ice cream, and just excited to have you on and chat a little bit, learn all a bit about it.
We appreciate you guys being fans and everybody being fans. That's what keeps me going to work every day and keeps me employed. Yeah.
Okay, deal. Well, as long as you keep making the world's best, in my opinion, cookies and cream ice cream, you will stay employed.
That one we won't quit making that one.
I will single-handedly keep you in business. Sam, there's so much I think we can kind of start talking about, but I think obviously your story and the story of Reed's Dairy is so cool. So, but first and foremost, let's chat a little bit about like your background. Like, how did you get involved in what I would assume is the family business?
Yeah.
Where did things all start for you guys?
No, it's definitely family business. I'm third generation.
Cool.
So my grandpa and his two brothers, they were the original, founders of Reed's Dairy, of what it was when it started, and then my dad was the next generation, and then me. So I've always been in the business. I've had one job besides like internships outside of working at Reed's Dairy, and it was actually at an ice cream shop serving. But it
probably serving your family's own.
Serving families ice cream at college.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Up at G's Dairy in Rexburg when I was going to college. So it was easy. I knew the
That's
guy.
so
I'm
great.
like, hey, you need somebody to scoop ice cream.
I know how to do it.
I kind of know how.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, I've always been involved with the dairy. Had all sorts of different jobs growing up. Started out probably just cleaning. Hey, go sweep the dock or something like that, or clean the coolers. Was a milkman, helped deliver milk, during the busy seasons, or if there was a snowstorm or somebody was sick, and then made ice cream all through high school, and then went to school when I served a mission for my church. Came back and went to school up at BYU Idaho, and studied business management awesome. With an emphasis in finance, and then graduated and came back into the business working full time. So been there about 10 years now. Been graduated from school about 10 years ago, and it's been a fun ride. We've changed a lot in 10 years, and since I was knee high to a grasshopper, whatever that term is. So yeah.
Cool. No, that's awesome. I think your story is similar to maybe not a ton of our audience, but I feel like there's a significant amount of people that I talk to day to day, whether it's a client of mine or a potential client or just somebody that I meet that at some point or another has been involved in like a family business, which I think is really, really cool. And especially one that's kind of built a legacy like you guys have. Like Southeast Idaho, if you live here in Southeast Idaho, you have heard of or had Reed's Dairy ice cream, or just you've heard of Reed's Dairy in general.
Or you better soon.
Yeah. Or you better at some point, right? It will happen.
Yeah.
So if you don't mind, kind of give us an idea of, so obviously your grandfather starts it with his brothers.
Yep.
What was the kind of the initial goal for, I would assume it was probably just, hey, let's start a dairy. I don't know if they were anticipating, selling ice cream or doing cheese curds, right, at some point. No. But like, what was kind of the initial start or genesis of Reed's Dairy?
Sure.
And what is different today than it was, that many years ago?
Well, I mean, I obviously wasn't around clear back then, but from what I've been told, my grandpa and his three brothers, they lived on their dad's farm, cool. and they raised pigs that was kind of their side money. They would raise pigs every year and sell them and take the money and buy more pigs and keep a little bit of the profit. And when my grandpa and one of the other brothers, they served in the Korean War. When they were off doing that, the one brother that stayed, he got real sick of taking care of the pigs all by himself, and thought, hey, I think cows, milk cows, would be the way to go, you know. And back then, everybody had milk cows. I mean, or not everybody, but I mean, there was tons of dairies all over the place.
The reason I laugh is what little I know about dairy cows is like they require the most maintenance.
Probably, yeah.
like daily, like granted, there's not a lot of vacations being a farmer regardless, but there's definitely no vacation when it comes to milking cows.
No, it's 24/7 for sure. But no, he was the dairyman for sure of the family, and thought, hey, that's what I want to do. So they sold the pigs and bought some dairy cows, and they were just milking them, selling the milk to a local processing plant that was in the middle of town. Come pick up the milk cans that you'd see on the trucks. No refrigeration back then.
Nope.
They just take 50, 100 gallons or whatever you had that day and take it to the plant, and then return the empty ones the next day. And that's how it started out. So they were just milking cows. They weren't selling directly to the public. And then I think that's where it morphed next was, hey, well, if somebody wants to come here, why don't they drive here and get a bottle of milk? And so I've seen pictures where I've been told there's just a tank and just a little spigot. You could bring your, jar, your,
That's cool.
whatever you had, and put your money in a shoebox on top. And then so that was kind of our introduction into, retail and selling directly to the consumer. It slowly morphed from there. Home delivery was a really big thing. And so they bought some home delivery routes from another dairyman and started delivering door to door. And then the next, was processing. So they decided, hey, this is really working for us. Let's put in a processing plant so we can pasteurize and homogenize and be able to bottle the products, so they did that, and they did that for a long time, just home delivery, just the white milk, then my dad was the next generation, got involved in it, and that's when we started doing more ice cream and milk, chocolate milk, those types of deals.
That's so cool. The big thing that I think of when it comes to like farming or any kind of ag thing in general, and I would assume this is probably why your grandfather and his brothers did what they did, and your father has done it more and you've done it more, is that like the margins are so slim when it comes to like if you're just raising milk cows and milking cows and then just selling the milk to a processor, like your margins are so small that I would assume, again, you weren't there, but I would assume there was probably some conversations of like, gosh, if we could figure out how to bring this in-house, like we're going to be able to make more money and support our families better, right? I would assume that's probably some of those
that value added, is what they call that, right? Is adding value to that product. So that's how we got the ice cream business. My dad tells me is we used to sell it to another ice cream manufacturer in the region. We'd sell all our extra cream to them, and they'd make ice cream, and I think that was what my dad thought is, well, why are we letting them, make the ice cream and make all that extra money? I mean, an ice cream cone, you can make a lot more if you buy this little piece of machinery and you turn it into ice cream. So let's do that. And so that's kind of always been our motto is, hey, let's, there's a lot easier ways to make money than what we're doing. But, hey, let's try to make a little bit more and selling directly to customers. I mean, we wholesale products. But we really feel like our biggest niche is our stores and selling directly to the customers. Still through home delivery, we still deliver to 2,000 homes a week throughout the state, and have our 6 stores that we operate, and they're a lot of work. I mean, I see other guys that can take off months at a time with their business, and I'm like, man, I would love to be able to do that. I mean, it is a lot of work to operate stores and to have those customers. Everybody else's holiday weekends, 4th of July or Memorial Day, Labor Day, you know, it's when everybody wants to go and play, right?
Yeah,
and,
yeah.
And that's when we're our busiest, you know,
Yep.
when hey, it's go time during those. I'd love maybe sometimes to feel like, hey, I want to go.
I can go take a week here.
Spring break, yeah, I want to go somewhere for spring break, but that's when
Not something you can really do.
Yeah.
Well, and it's interesting because like that's funny you say that, because you would think that as you've grown it, maybe you could get it to that point, or as you've grown it, that Sam could take off for a week. But it's funny that you say that, because it's almost like it's come full circle back to like your grandfather. Like, you can't take a day off from milking cows.
Yeah.
So like, even though maybe your guys aren't necessarily out milking cows anymore, like you've got 6 stores to run and delivery routes. Like, it's kind of funny that it's kind of come almost full circle. It's like, it's gotten so big, and I'm sure it's awesome and such a blessing to your family that it can support who you guys are. But like, it's just kind of funny how it's come full circle almost, you know?
Well, I mean, I don't get me wrong. I'm not doing everything, you know, but
Right,
I mean,
no.
I got some good team behind me, but yeah, it is just still thinking about that. Like, oh man, I'd love a day off, but you know, working with customers, it's good times too. So
what, as you've grown this thing, and you know, as I'm sure your father's answer would be different and your grandfather's answer it'd be different, but for you over the last decade, like, what have been some of kind of the biggest challenges that you guys have faced as you've tried to continue to grow and open more locations and get, you know, start delivering to more people? Like, what are some of the challenges you guys have faced?
yeah, probably not being able to do everything, or you know, an owner not being able to do everything. When we had one store and everything was just right here in Idaho Falls, or right in Idaho Falls, you know, you could watch over just about everything, you know,
Right.
You know, when I was making ice cream, I was probably like the maybe 7th or 8th ice cream maker we've ever had, you know, like
Right.
now we have 10 guys making ice cream, you know, at one time. And so the consistency that's been a struggle that we've had, and you know, the customer service level at our store in Meridian, Idaho at 9 p.m. when, you know, like, are those kids that are there, are they going to be the same level that we would be if, you know, if it was me helping them, you know? So that's definitely been something that we've had to learn and try to hone in on, is getting everybody to, you know, be consistent across the board, right? Like,
I'm going to double down on it a little bit. Is there some specific things you guys have done to kind of help with that? Like, keep the quality the same across the board? Because for those people who don't know, they probably think there's nobody in Idaho and there's no people here. Meridian's 4.5 hours away, you know, like it's a ways away. So it's hard for, I can imagine it's difficult for you guys to like make sure that store is operating and having the same quality as the ones here in Idaho or Southeast Idaho, right? So like, is there something you guys have done specifically, or how have you maintained quality? Is it the hiring process? Like, what is it?
Yeah, you gotta have really good people. You know, it's not always just the first person that puts their hands up and says, yeah, I'll work that store, or I'll manage that store. You know, but having good people and training and retraining. I mean, high school. I mean, ice cream shops, you know, high school kids are usually who you're going to find in them, right? And I actually think that's a positive thing. A lot of people look on high school kids as being, oh, I would never hire high school kids. They don't want to work and they're lazy. But I love working with the high school kids and college age kids. They're, you know, it's usually their first job, and so we can show them, here's how we want it. You know, they don't have any bad habits that they've learned elsewhere.
Right, yeah.
So we can say, hey, this is how we expect you to work. And it's a good thing. But yeah, training and retraining and it takes time. You know, I mean, between Alan and my dad and I, we're in Boise quite often, you know, in those faraway stores, and technology's helped a lot, you know, Zoom and phone calls, you know, texting. I'm constantly on my phone texting and hey, we got a question about this. I don't know about it, you know, and
how do I do this? Yeah.
So that's helped a lot. You know, I can't imagine, you know, trying to do it 20 years ago before cell phones and all those technologies. But
no, that's a great answer. I love that you say it's training and retraining. Like you're never done. You're never done, right? Like, and I think that's a mistake that a lot of people make, is they're like, oh, I trained them on that. He should know how to do that, or she should know how to do that. I told him how to do it. And it's like, okay, but maybe you need to retrain every so often. Maybe, like, people are people. Like, we make mistakes. We forget the training that we had 6 months ago. And so it's probably good to have a refresher, right?
Yeah.
Like,
well, and being real specific on what you're training them, you know, I mean,
Yeah.
sometimes you're like, go mop the floor. Maybe a kid's never mopped the floor before. So you can't expect, hey, if I just told you to go mop the floor and I come in and it's terrible job, like, well, I guess I didn't actually show him
right.
how I want that floor mopped, or, you
Yeah.
know, how he's supposed to, you know, stock the shelves or how they're supposed to look. So, you
Yeah.
know, you got to be real specific with it. And
Well, and that relates so much to our audience. I feel like a lot of like the home service industry, whether it's construction or restoration or carpet cleaning, like a lot of their team, they might not be high school age, but a lot of their team is young. Like a lot of their technicians are young, and they're just kind of maybe this is their first legit job where they've got a paycheck and they've got to worry about taxes and like doing a good job and doing all of that, right? So training and retraining is a huge piece to it. And I've kind of started, you know, not that I own a business or am a COO or anything like that, but I've found that like with my team, like I've started to look inward more, just to your point about like the mopping analogy, right? Like go mop this thing. And then you go back and it didn't get mopped very good. You're like, instead of getting mad and being like, you should have mopped this better, you look internally and go, okay, maybe I should show you or teach you or train you how to mop better, instead of just getting mad that you didn't mop how I wanted to. And I just think you're going to read my mind. What's a good mop job?
Yeah, no, it's true. The managers are very key to that. And you know, if a business fails or, you know, or something isn't done, it usually falls back on the manager most of the time.
Right. Here's a question. We're going to do an experiment here. This is going to be off the cuff, so I apologize, but it's not going to be the big question like you were talking about before we start recording. If you had to put a number on how much time you spend every week, either training employees, and maybe it's training managers or whatever, or working on like your training program, how much time do you think you spend every week?
That's a good question. Probably not as much time as I should. You know, I mean, you know, those manuals, you think, hey, I'm done with them. You know, I make them once and, you know, this is ironclad for, you know, the rest of my life. I'll never have to look at this thing. But I go back to it like, you know, I'm like, I just did this 6 months ago. And like, that's already like not how we're doing it.
It's already obsolete.
Like, that's different. We don't want to do it that way anymore. Or we got something different in here. I'd probably, I mean, a lot of my job is just following up with people, checking on them, you know, making sure that, you know, they've got what they need to be successful, and, you know, answering questions on stuff. I mean, it takes a big chunk of my time is just kind of being available, being there to talk to people. I go to Boise, you know, I try to get over there at least every month for a few days and spend time in each one of the stores and just being there to let them know I'm there. And if they've got questions and seeing stuff that, you know, hey, that's really great, or hey, this, you know, we can improve on that. And
that's great.
Yeah.
No, the reason I ask, and the reason I put you on the spot, is we recorded a podcast a few episodes ago. It's been a couple of months now, actually. But I sat down with Katie and we talked a little bit about kind of training and hiring and these two like pieces. It feels like you're a hamster on a hamster wheel at some time, like you're always doing it all the time and it never stops. But one of the things she said is like, okay, if you're an owner operator, which a lot of our clients are, like they own a small business and they maybe have 10 employees, so that means they're working in their business a lot. She kind of has made this rule with her, because we built kind of a training program here that we're big fans of. And she's kind of made this rule. Okay, you should devote at minimum 4 hours a week to your training program. I would assume you're probably spending a little bit more than 4 hours a week on training or hiring.
Yeah,
or
probably
something.
not, you know, a program, but, you know, in person. Yeah,
I bet you're spending a lot more than that. And just because of the nature of your business, right? Like you just kind of went through like, yeah, maybe it's not necessarily the program itself, but it's following up, making sure they got the correct training. Hey, you got this training 6 months ago, or I've got this manual that was 6 months ago. Oh, maybe I need to update it, right? Like doing those types of things on a weekly basis, like is required. Even a business that's a little bit larger like yourselves, like you guys definitely have more than 10 employees. Yeah. And so like that's going to require some additional follow-up and additional, you know, training on stuff like that.
Sure. You know, it's never ending. Like you said, the hiring and that, like, I get people asking all the time or calling, hey, you guys hiring right now? And it's like, maybe not, but call me later this afternoon. I might be, you know, you never know. It just never, you know, it seems like you're in a good spot. And then 2 days later, you're like, oh man, we need to hire some people, or we lost these people. You know, it's more difficult, especially in the last 3-4 years or whatever.
Yeah.
It's gotten harder.
Well, all of those challenges you've talked about, especially, you know, I think a lot of our clients have aspirations to kind of grow their businesses to the point where they have, you know, maybe multiple locations like you, or multiple different trucks or crews that they can be working on all the time, right? And I think that's what you're talking about with this whole kind of overarching theme with training is so applicable to them, because as they grow, that's always going to be something I feel like in the back of your mind is quality. How do I maintain the same level of quality? Like when I'm on a crew with me and my 3 guys, like we do an awesome job, but if I hire 3 more to go be on a different crew, how do I know those guys are always going to be doing the same quality work that it comes back to training. Your training program has got to be ideal. Like it's got to be really, really good. When it comes to like, you know, I would assume with like high school kids, like you're going to have quite a bit of turnover, whether it's kids work for you for 6 months and then they got to go back to school, or, you know, maybe not 6 months, 3 or 4 months, or maybe they work for you for 6 months and they're like, I'm going to go get a different job, or I'm going to go somewhere else. Yeah. How have you first off, has that been a problem? And if it has, like, how have you guys worked on solving that to some extent?
Yeah, no, that's kind of just the nature of the business, I guess. I used to take it super personally when a kid would quit, you know, and like, I'm going to go work somewhere else. Like, I'd be like, what, you know,
what did I do?
Why would you want to leave? You know, like, I love this. Like, what, you know, why would you want to do something different? And, you know, my wife had to kind of like, it's, you know, you love your business a lot more than anybody else is going to do it, you know? So, you know, these kids, they're just going to, I'm bored of this. I'm going to go on and do something else. I mean, we do have a lot of kids that they'll start with this for their first job and they're here until they move on to go to college. But then we do also have the, you know, 3-4 months and, well, I want to move on and do something else.
See you later.
So that's what I'm talking about. Like the, you know, it's the hamster wheel of like, well, you know, right now it seems like we have enough staff in our stores, but, you know,
tomorrow we might not.
Yeah, and it seems they go in groups. They're friends and like, well, I'm going to go over here. You should come over here too. And they come in groups and they kind of, you know, leave in groups a little bit as well too. But you know, we try to do as much as we can. I mean, competitive, you know, as far as pay goes, to try to retain a lot of that staff. The high school kids, it's just, you kind of just know that that's part of the business, is that they're going to move on and they're going to go do other things. So,
no, what your advice there, you said it right at the beginning, I think is the most pertinent, is like, don't be so tough on yourself about it. Like as a business owner, as the, you know, the COO, like you can't be so hard on yourself that you like, you know, are just mad at yourself at every time somebody quits, right? Like you can't do that. Or mad at yourself when you have to let somebody go. Like, gosh, I shouldn't have hired that person, right? Or whatever. Like you can't beat yourself up about it. And I think the biggest key, again, that you know, we've kind of worked on here at Spot On Solutions and at Get Found First, is like kind of almost over hiring in some certain senses, right? Like we try to kind of have a bench in a lot of ways, so that like maybe we've got a couple of people that aren't busy all the time, but that allows us to be a little bit more critical in certain situations where it's like, maybe we don't need to hire right now, or we can be, you know, sometimes make sure that the quality of work is really good by all of our employees, so that we know, okay, hey, our team is working really, really well, really, really efficiently right now. We've got a couple people that maybe don't have a full schedule right now, but we're going to keep them because they offer such great work, and almost kind of having this like, this bench, this backup, so that we aren't always on the hamster wheel. So if somebody quits unexpectedly, hey, we got somebody that can step in immediately to take care of that.
No. Yeah, I mean, it's pretty seasonal for our business, you know, with the ice cream shops. I mean, we might go, you know, part-time employees in the summer. We might have 100 part-time employees throughout all the shops, and then in the winter, you know, it really drops off, and we might need, you know, half of that, you know. And so, but you know, it is a learning curve to, some of my new managers are like, oh yeah, I don't need to hire anybody. You know, it'll be like May, April, May, and they'll be like, I've got tons of help right now. I don't need anybody. And I'm like, well, but some of these people you're planning on staying all summer, they, once school gets out, they may have other thoughts, and they might want to party all summer rather than be working, And so like I said, hire a little overhire and have a few extra people because then when the busy season hits, you don't want to be panicking and 4th of July, like, I don't have anybody working this weekend because I didn't hire people 2 months ago, or everybody I hired is all brand new, So we've definitely learned that. Maybe not always, but you've almost always got to be hiring to some extent. Like you said, you get a phone call from someone saying, hey, are you hiring right now? I might not be this moment, but maybe I'll still take your resume or take down your information because I might be this afternoon, right? Yeah, tomorrow.
It can be changing constantly. What's the future look like for Reed's Dairy? What are you guys hoping to accomplish in the next few years? What are some obstacles to keep you from growing? What are some things you're foreseeing? Maybe they aren't an obstacle right now, but you're like, gosh, if we get any bigger, if we have another location, that could be a problem in a year or two from now. How are you guys looking to grow? What are you trying to do to help yourselves grow? And what are maybe some obstacles to that as well?
Yeah. We would like to be opening more locations in probably different areas that we're not already servicing right now. Maybe like we expanded over into Boise, in the Boise Valley about 7 years ago is when we opened our first store over there. And then that really, exploded that business over there is along with the stores, we pick up wholesale accounts that we'll sell to,
grocery stores,
coffee shops, other like restaurants is a big one for us. And we kind of have this hub, of our store that we've got a truck going to service our own store. So we might as well, fill up that truck with other products and haul it around. And so, I'd like to see us expand into Utah. We're kind of in northern Utah right now with our wholesale. And we have a lot of demand down there for more of our products. And so I think, getting into Utah and kind of doing what we've done in Boise, maybe have multiple stores and
that's cool
and warehouse and we still will always probably produce our products in one location. A lot of people, will ask us, well, in Boise, you must be having your own cows over there and you must have your own processing plant over there and make your own ice cream for that. And it's like, no, that would be a nightmare as far as the training and retraining, having all that, but just trying to keep the products consistent, having them made in the same spot. But right now, what we're doing to kind of help us to get to that point where we feel like we can, have another, Western Idaho on our hands or, maybe expand into Utah is where our dairy was, and we talked about this earlier, how we moved our cows and our cows are no longer there where our processing plant is and where our store is. We're building a new warehouse facility there.
Oh, cool.
A new distribution center so that we've run out of room. Our coolers, you should come look at them, especially here in the next couple months with the holiday season. There's no room. It's stacked up clear to the ceilings. There's little walkways through our coolers and freezers and that. So we really need some new warehouse space. We're renting warehouse space, renting frozen and refrigerated space, kind of all over town. So that's what we're doing mainly is going to be building this new warehouse space so we can feel like we can keep enough raw materials and make enough product, have enough product to load onto trucks and to ship out. And then eventually down the road, we'll add on to that and expand our processing facility and be able to make, more different products, maybe some products we don't already make, or be able to make more of this stuff that we already do make and be a little more consistent about it and have some different pieces of equipment that we'd love to have now, but we just don't have the space in our current.
Right.
So we're kind of, spending some money, in labor to still produce some of those,
right.
Where we could be a lot more efficient if we had, hey, this new piece of equipment or,
right.
that. So
I love that you've done the legwork to where you've built this process in such a way. You've built your process, you've built your training in such a way that you've got it to a point, hey, we're dialed in with the big picture stuff. We're dialed in. We know how to hire. We know who to look for. We know how to build a good training process, right? Like the big thing that is the challenge that you're facing is just equipment, right? Or equipment and or like storage and like physical like assets in a way, right? Like which is, in my opinion, it probably doesn't feel this way for you, but is a good problem to have, because if it was the reverse, if you had all the storage and you had the equipment and you had everything taken care of, but you just couldn't figure out, I feel like figuring out the hiring thing is way more challenging in a lot of ways than just, okay, hey, we've got to save enough money or get to this point or be selling this amount of product in order to build this bigger building, right? Like I feel like that's something that can be solved a little bit more straightforward than like, gosh, we hired all these people and they all quit, or we had to fire them or whatever. Like, how do we keep those people here? It seems like you've got that pretty dialed in, which is cool.
Yeah, no, it's a good problem to have. We got, too many people wanting our products. We can't, I mean,
Right.
I think we could open a bunch of stores all over the place and have the demand there. We kind of have the demand to sell more of our products, but we're probably a little behind on where we should have been maybe doing this a little bit ago. And we did start, and COVID kind of slowed down a lot of those plans and a lot of the building and that. But I think we're on track now to do that, and then we're staying plenty busy as we are right now. It's just operating wise, my warehouse guys and drivers and stuff, they're working a lot harder than they probably should if we had this warehouse where
ready to go,
be a lot easier. So,
I gotcha.
Yeah.
Well, that's awesome. And like I said at the beginning, I'm a big fan of what you guys are doing. So we're gonna rep the brand hard for sure as
Cool.
you guys continue to expand, because we love Reed's Dairy. I think what you guys have done and are going to continue to do is just awesome. It's way cool. So
Cool.
Keep it up, man. Keep selling ice cream.
We will, yeah. It's a fun thing to do, fun thing to sell. People aren't usually in a bad mood when they come get ice cream. Everybody's
or
usually
cheese curds. Cheese
curds make
close
everybody
second.
happy. The chocolate milk, is a big thing for us. But I mean, we want to sell the best too. I don't know if I could ever sell the cheapest or the, like, oh, hey, this ice cream's, not the greatest, but it's cheap, but
Yep.
like we like to make that quality product and really hammer that home. It may cost a little bit more, but people are usually willing to pay for something that they really like.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Well, before I close with kind of the same questions that I ask everybody, I gotta ask, because my brother-in-law, who loves this thing, would be mad at me if I didn't ask you.
Okay.
Who came up with the brown cow?
I have no idea.
Is that something you guys have done for a while? Like,
Yeah. I've never not known that we didn't do it. It's always been
It's
around
always
since I was there, so I have no
you're
idea.
an infant, you just know immediately. Yeah, I know what a brown cow is. What the-
Yeah. The fair. I mean, Eastern Idaho State Fair here in Blackfoot.
yeah.
That's like our number one thing.
Oh,
and I grew up 5 years old. I was in the booth selling it. And I don't remember not selling it. Security guys really like that the brown cows.
Oh yeah, that's the best thing. For those of you who don't know, it's essentially a root beer float, but instead of root beer, it's chocolate milk.
Yeah.
Like, it's the best thing ever. It's amazing.
And in different parts of the country, a brown cow is something completely different.
Completely
than
different.
What we call brown cow.
Yeah, but it's like we get it at the fair every time we go. Basically, anytime I stop by one of your locations, I'm either just getting your cookies and cream ice cream, or I'm getting your cookies and cream ice cream in a brown cow, which is the way to do it. It's awesome. For those of you that aren't blessed to live in Idaho or potentially Utah sometime down the road and can't do it, like, you just take your favorite ice cream and you put it in chocolate milk, and it's amazing. I mean, it's the way to do it. So I had to ask who came up, but it sounds like it's been a thing for a while.
It probably was my dad.
Yeah.
I mean, he was the one who was behind the chocolate milk and the ice cream. So
Put the two
maybe
together.
somebody else put the two together, but we should find out who actually came up with it.
That's awesome. Well, I had to ask, but it sounds like it's been around. Funny thing is I hadn't really heard of the brown cow, and I've gone to the fair since I was a kid, but I hadn't heard about it until I married into the Farmer clan, their last name Farmer, and they go to the fair every year. And my brother-in-law, without fail, will get probably 3 or 4 brown cows over the space of the fair, because he loves them. They're awesome.
No,
They're a great little
saying
dessert.
the security guys there.
Oh,
Same
yeah.
guys there almost every night, getting their nightly brown cows before their night shift. So.
That's awesome. Well, thank you. That was awesome. I appreciate it, Sam. But to close out the podcast, we ask all of our guests same 3 questions. I sent them over to you earlier, but first question, favorite book or podcast that you've read or listened to recently or that you're looking forward to read? Give us your recommendations.
I'm not a huge reader,
Okay.
But podcasts, I do listen to a decent amount of podcasts. And probably my favorite one, the one I never miss an episode of, is Pardon My Take. I don't know if you've heard of those guys.
I've definitely heard of That's my favorite, one of my favorite podcasts.
Yeah,
for sports.
I never miss an episode of their podcast.
Okay, that's awesome. That probably leads us into the second question, which is how do you relax at the end of a long day? I would assume probably listen to a little Pardon My Take.
Yeah.
To get some good humor.
Yeah, cleaning the kitchen, usually put the kids to bed and start cleaning the kitchen and listen to that. They do a good job
They're
of
hilarious.
talking about sports in kind of a funny way, and their look on sports is a lot different than like the ESPN or the Fox, the super professional guys. I mean, it's just like buddies sitting around talking about sports.
So great. Anything else? Yeah. What else do you do you wear a lot of hats? Obviously, you talked about, you wish you could have a little bit more vacation here and there, right? Like you've been busy. You guys are expanding and growing, which is awesome. How do you relax at the end of a long day?
Oh, yeah, my wife and I just, hang out on the couch, watch YouTube, like little clips on YouTube. That's kind of at my end of the day. I'll just, whatever's recommended to me, I'll maybe watch that. Like World War II documentaries, big. Like I can fall asleep to those actually pretty good. They help me relax
awesome.
and go to sleep. But, I like to golf. I don't play nearly as much golf as I used to when I was younger and before I had family. And, it doesn't help me relax too much. I usually get a little more worked up. I'm probably taking it a little more serious than
say a few 4-letter words.
Yeah,
like
a little
do.
more serious
than
than I probably should take it. But I'm not any good. I don't know why I act like I should be better. But
I gotcha.
Yeah.
No, those are great recommendations. I think again, I go back and reference this all the time. But one of our first podcasts, we had a guy come on that talked about you've got to have like white space in your life. So like just shut the brain off and listen to a World War II documentary or, like golf. I love to play golf and I do that a lot too. Like I'm not any good at it, but like it like requires all of my focus. So I have to shut my brain off and not think about, this email or this phone call or this task. Like I can go shut my brain off for a couple of hours. It just allows me to kind of relax a little bit, which is awesome.
Yeah.
So
yeah, it's fun. I like playing it. So
love it. Last question. I don't think, obviously this is kind of the family business and what you guys have done for a long time now, but if you could rewind to the beginning of your career, because beginning of your career, scooping ice cream is a little different than being the COO, but if you could rewind to the beginning of your career and tell younger Sam one thing, what would that one thing be?
We've kind of talked a little bit about it already today. Kind of what I thought about was, just not being afraid to move on and make changes.
Yeah.
Sometimes I'm like, hey, this is how we've done things for so long and it's worked. I don't think we want to change it. And then, having somebody, usually another, person on my staff or, somebody else comes in, has a different idea of, hey, why don't we try it this way? And, in the past I've been reluctant to like, I don't think I want to change that. And then you try things and you're like, hey, why the heck have we been doing it, that way for so long? This way is so much better, So not being afraid to change or make changes, like let people go that, may feel like if I let this person go, if this person leaves, we're in deep trouble. But usually it works out and you can, it's a lot of times for the better, especially with, letting people go that, you need to,
Yeah.
So
great recommendation, Sam. That was awesome. Thanks again for coming on. This is really, really cool to sit down and chat with you a little bit.
Having me on. I don't know if we learned anything, but I had a good time.
Lots.
Had a good time talking with you.
We learned lots, man, and I think our audience will get a lot of really good info out of this because you talked about some great things with hiring and being able to overcome kind of some of those challenges you guys have faced as you've grown and dealing with the training process and how do you train and maintain quality as you guys have continued to grow. And I know that our audience is really going to enjoy this, so I really, really appreciate it. Where can people find out more about Reed's Dairy or learn a little bit about you guys?
Probably follow us on Facebook,
Cool.
Instagram. I think they're just both at Reed's Dairy.
Yeah.
Yeah, if you are, like you said, not here in Idaho or, Western Wyoming, Utah, we do ship ice cream all over the country.
Heck yeah.
Every week we're shipping boxes of ice cream or chocolate milk to, East Coast.
That's cool.
We can get it anywhere UPS or FedEx goes. So
Love it.
yeah, you can hop on our website and order it there.
The best cookies and cream ice cream by far, bar none. It's my favorite brand of ice cream, and if I can find Reed's, that's what I get because it's the best cookies and cream ice cream.
It's pretty simple, but we make a lot of the we can put Oreos in anything. Our customer base really likes Oreos, so
I love it.
That's sometimes we have to scale back. Hey guys, let's come up with a new flavor, but let's try not to use Oreos because I know
everybody
Oreos. Loves it, but let's kind of spread our wings a little bit and try something different because you can put Oreos in just about any kind of flavor of ice cream and people will eat it.
Guys like Hayden will love it. So there you go. Appreciate it, Sam. Thanks for coming on, and we hope to have you on again in the future. So
I appreciate it.
This has been Success Elevated, making you a little bit better one show at a time. Thanks for joining us. Please subscribe on YouTube or any other major podcast platform to listen to more episodes. We are proudly brought to you by Spot On Solutions. If you'd like to learn more about how we can help you grow your business, please check us out at spotonsolutions.com.